everybody. Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek Aloud. It's a bit of an interesting system this evening. As you can see, of course, I'm here, Troy, your host for the show. And joining me also is skip over the Unky slot. It's Bully. How are you, mate?
Oh, I'm very good. I see. We can see on the screen there, Unky's obviously offline, so some fairly big shoes to fill this week, I would have thought.
Indeed, he is offline. And for everyone watching along at home, here's a message from Steve from earlier.
Unky Dunky's off duty this week, so saying good day to you boys from sunny Queensland. Check that view out. Not too bad, eh? While I've been on holidays, been checking out a bit of Splatoon 3. Can say it's a bloody ripping time so far. I'll talk all about it next week. Until then, boys, have a good show.
Beautiful work. Thank you, Unky Dunky. We will have a good show, mate. Thank you for sending that one through. So, Unky Dunky's not with us, but this week alone. He'll be back next week. Speaking of this week, however, let me tell you how this here show will run. First off, games, interrogation, and deliberation. Bully and I will talk you through all the games we've been playing this week, followed by the overtime. Any extra little games we've been playing on the side, we'll have a look at those. And then, of course, we have the newsroom. Now, even though Unky Dunky's not here, long range, he's been kicking in newsroom doors for us. He's collected the stories as always, and we look forward to getting through all the news stories in segment 2. Segment 3, then, of course, is the standoff. Now, Bully, I know you've got some big shoes to fill, mate, so tell us, what is the constraints for the standoff this evening?
Well, the standoff this week, we've had a bit of a revival of Cyberpunk based on the anime on Netflix. So we're saying this week's standoff is the best game resurgence or the biggest game comeback that we've seen. So a game that started off fairly low on the pecking order and has turned into a behemoth or redeemed itself. So that's where we're at for that one.
Perfect. I look forward to hearing all about it when we get to segment 3. But then, of course, segment 4 is audience interrogation. That's where you watching in the YouTube live stream chat can join in with the show as we go. Any comments or thoughts you've got during the show, bang them into the YouTube chat, and we will round them up in segment 4. Without further ado, it's time for games, interrogation, and deliberation. Game 1 this evening, and this is all me. I don't believe Bully's gone hands on it all, but you're looking at now footage from I.A.I. This is an excellent little top-down shooter, and I've got it hooked up, of course, on the Xbox Series X using my arcade stick due to the old arthritis hands. I can't play these bullet hell games at all. On a traditional controller. It's the angle, the grip, my fingers. It's a story you don't want to hear. But on the arcade stick, as you can see, I'm in my element and absolutely loving it. This Bully took me back to the old NES. NES 1, I cannot remember the game, but I spent hundreds of hours in a game that looked incredibly similar to this. Top-down, space shooter, various pickups, that sort of thing. It's exactly what you want from the olden days, but they've got a lot of the modern-day trappings where there's an sort of a metagame, if you will, an upgradable system, all the various components of your ships, the attack, the defense. You collect, as you're seeing there on screen, you kill enemies, you get the blue orbs, collect the blue orbs at the end of the level, you go into your hangar and you can upgrade your ship accordingly, and then go back, replay the levels, and of course be more successful with, more health or greater firepower, that sort of thing. Typical fare, bunch of bosses, and just bullet hell fun. For me, I love the arcade stick. Have you had a chance to look at any of this footage, Bully, and do you have any thoughts, mate?
No, this is the first time I'm looking at it, but it does, I agree with you, it does remind you of the 1942. I know that was one of the top-down shooters on some of the early consoles and the arcades. It sort of looks like that, but obviously in space as opposed to, flying over the Pacific as such. But graphically, it does look pretty impressive, and just sort of noticing. I know one of the turn-offs with this for me is, as you mentioned, the old bullet hell with the, dodging left and right and just trying to squeeze through the little gaps and stuff. I've, sort of struggled with that sort of stuff because you'll be focusing what's ahead of you or to the right, and someone will come from the left and get you.
Yep.
So I've always struggled with those sort of ones, but just looking through this, I don't know if this is one of the earlier levels, but it seems to be fairly tame in terms of the amount of bullets on screen at the same time. So I don't know how much you put into it and whether it gets any tougher from here.
Yeah, so this is about the hour and a half mark in. This was mission 7. I should note, of course, I dropped it down to an easier difficulty because the grind there, as you can see on the right-hand side of the UI there, it's all the various offensive moves I've got, the different attack types. But they get leveled up over time. So I've dropped it down to easy so I could grind out a few of the blue orbs, unlock more of those weapons, and give myself a bit more health. Replay levels and just upgrade my ship a bit more. As I said, I'm 2 hours in now, and I'm still at level 7, still trying to grind out a few more buffs so I can get through the boss at the end of level 7. Quite the challenge, but there's, I believe, 40 levels all up in this, so I'm expecting around the 10-hour mark, give or take, I suppose, to see the full game. Obviously, maybe if I upgrade the ship, and maybe it'll get significantly easier, but to your point, man, maybe those levels will also get a lot more difficult and a lot more, narrow flying sections that'll try me out. Sort of put a lot of pressure on that arcade stick. But so far, I'm absolutely loving it. And as I may have sort of indicated, the natural or the normal difficulty playing on these levels, I think for me, it would just take far too long to grind out enough orbs to upgrade the ship enough for me to have a chance at getting past those bosses. So, as I said, I've gone for the easier difficulty for the upgradable options, and then hopefully at the end I can play around with the higher difficulties once I've sort of got all the perks for the ship unlocked. But it's everything I could want in an arcade sort of top-down 2D shooter. It's a heck of a lot of fun. Just, once again, my weekly plead, I suppose, to Xbox. Please, guys, give us an arcade stick that's supported by the Xbox Series X natively so I don't have to do my hackery to get these things working. But a top game, and I can't recommend it enough. If you like your top-down shooters, it is what you see. Oh, the other big note I had to make, of course, Unky Dunky has a monitor that does 120 hertz mode, and this game supports the 120 hertz. However, I can't test it out because my monitor does not go anywhere near that high. So hopefully next week when Unky Dunky's back, we can hear how well it runs there. But it's certainly flawless at the 60 frames a second mark. But that's it for IAI. The installs on the channel is the other thing I should know. Game 2 this week. Bully, as I understand it, mate, you got some more time over the weekend to get into more Modern Warfare 2 Call of Duty action.
Yeah, I did have another crack at it. So obviously, what are we talking about? A week and a half ago, they had the PlayStation Early Access.
Yep.
And then had sort of about a week ago, they had the if you pre-ordered on Xbox, you got access to the beta as well, and then it went open again. What was it, 5 days ago? I think off the top of my head that it went open to all and sundry to have a go at it.
Look at it on Xbox at all, mate?
Oh, I didn't get a chance to on the Xbox, but I did go back onto it on the PlayStation, and I have to say, there's probably the one thing that I've noticed, and it's pretty difficult because I think I've mentioned in the last couple of weeks that I've been getting into the previous one, which is Call of Duty Vanguard, and it plays fairly differently to that. There's a couple of differences with sliding into, like going from a run into a slide and then trying to break out of that sort of midway through. And also, I know, and I've seen and read that there's actually a petition online at the moment in relation to the HUD mini-map up the top. So for those that aren't familiar, the previous COD ones, if you are running or shooting, it will show up in your opposition's mini-map as a red dot. They've gotten rid of that in this one, as best as I can tell. So there's a petition online at the moment for them to bring that back. So that's obviously annoyed some of the returning players who use that as a guide as to where they need to look and where they need to go. So without that, it's a bit more... you can still do your run and gun sort of stuff, but there's also a lot more sort of sneaking and a bit more tactics to it. And if you can get together with a good team and sort of work your way through a level as a team and sort of cover off different areas, it actually makes it a lot more realistic and in my opinion, a bit more fun, as opposed to, quite often, especially when you go up against some of the very good players, and I'm not one of those, but, they know where people are hiding, they know where people are coming around corners, and they know the levels back to front, and they'll get you before you've even seen them coming around the corner. So just a couple of things I've noticed, but probably the biggest letdown, and I don't think it infiltrated any of the console variants, being Xbox or PlayStation, but I know some of the PC crowd that the cheating and the hacking and that sort of stuff was rife in that second week with aimbots and stuff like that. I've seen one of the shields that you can carry. I've seen people plant it and images of people just literally shooting straight through that screen and one-shot killing, which I don't know what to say about it. It's just I don't know why you do it. I don't know why you'd engage in it. I don't know what you get out of it, to be honest with you. Are you really that bad at it and need such a thrill in your life to be, taking down people who are just trying to play it honestly?
My recommendation to those hackers would be, how about instead you play a single-player game on easy? You'll have the same sort of effect in the world, but you won't negatively impact anyone else. Would that be a fair middle ground?
I just can't fathom what they get out of it. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know whether it's a thing to get them to level up quicker so they can get to those rare weapons that you get when you start getting to the higher levels and then prestiging and all that sort of stuff. I don't know if that's the end game.
You've got to think that Blizzard would be Activision Blizzard would be banning them before they ever got to the prestiging levels. You can't think they'd sort of last more than 20 levels before enough people reported them. So it can't be about the leveling, I wouldn't think. That being said, I've never done it myself and I haven't spoken to anyone who has. There's a shout out to anyone in the audience who does do it. Let us know what's the thinking behind it. It's a mystery to me though, Billy. I've got no insights for you on that one.
Yeah, so I reckon at the end, in that first week, when it was the PlayStation, I got quite into it and I was enjoying the differences in the multiplayer sort of stuff. But I don't know what it was, whether it was just sort of flicking back, because there was that couple of day period where it was offline again and I flicked back to Vanguard, and I don't know whether it was flicking back to that again, then flicking back to Modern Warfare. I'll spit it out eventually. Warfare. I can't. Warfare 2. Flicking back to that for the second weekend, I just sort of lost a bit of the gloss that I had on the first weekend, and there was only a couple of maps. Maybe that was part of it. I'm not sure, but I'd be interested to check it out again when it does release and see what the full complement of maps are and whether they end up caving to that petition online.
I hope they don't. I hope they stick to their guns. But I had a look around and tried to find it on Xbox without the purchase. So to your earlier point, I was looking for the free open to everyone version that, at the end of the weekend. But I couldn't find it on the Xbox store. That's not to say it wasn't there, just that I went hunting for it and couldn't find it. I didn't have the 2 pre-orders, so I didn't have the second code to give it to myself on Xbox, but I very much went looking for the free one and couldn't see it on there. But, Billy, did you happen to notice those hackers that were in your game? Did you notice which platform they were on? Like, did they all come from the PC or...?
Oh no! Look, so I didn't encounter it as best as I can see, but I have seen some footage online that people have put up that are showing it. But the way around it is, at least for the moment, is you can go into the settings and just make it basically console only or not crossplay.
Crossplay, yeah.
Yeah, essentially. So you get rid of the PC players, which it's double-edged sword because it limits the pool of players that you can draw from, but ultimately if it means that you're playing a clean, fair game, then it's probably the way to go. And if you're going to jump into it early doors anyway, there's always going to be enough players on that you're not going to have an issue with finding other players on your console to play against. So it's probably the better way to go, at least in the interim, I would have thought. Did you end up putting much time into it, or?
No, I didn't fire it up. I was not at my house this weekend, so I wasn't able to get into it until I got back on Monday. And as I said, went searching for the Xbox One, but couldn't find it. So I sort of gave up and didn't boot it back up myself. But disappointing that they're already hacking it. I was sort of hopeful that wouldn't come into it until maybe a few weeks after launch. But unfortunately, they've already hacked open the beta. Although maybe this means they will have it fixed by launch, possibly.
Well, I suppose that might be the other thing, is that maybe they didn't put up, and this is only just, I guess, theories and thoughts on it, but maybe Activision were just trialling a couple of different systems, or maybe they just let it fly and just said, well, look, we'll weed out the hackers in the beta, ban them and cancel them, so that when the game does release, we can try and nip most of those in the bud, knowing that we've caught them out on the beta and it's fair for all and sundry when it gets released. So
yeah,
but yeah, maybe that's just a different way of doing it. I'm not sure if they've gone to that sort of lengths or they're just testing the service drain and that sort of stuff. I don't know, but just theories, I guess.
Well, I'm sure every department is beta testing something at the minute. I'm sure the marketing department is heavily looking at that storefront and how can they best sell some in-game currency. Oh, there's what I haven't looked for, Bully. I have no idea, mate, and I apologise if you haven't looked either. But is there anywhere talking about the Battle Pass?
I haven't seen it, but it's funny you mention that because, as I said, I've been playing Vanguard, which is a World War II set game, which when you switch over to the multiplayer, it obviously gives you some of the more modern weapons and stuff like that. But some of the skins and weapon skins and stuff that they're coming out with lately is bordering on ridiculous. You've had, ones like the Terminator and and those sort of ones. They're now coming out with the, Mecha Godzilla and, all this sort of stuff that just, I get that that's only the multiplayer component of it, but it's just sort of, it just doesn't look right when you're playing it in a World War II setting. That's it. So I have no doubt whatsoever that, obviously that's where they make the vast majority of their money is selling skins and battle pass subscriptions and that sort of stuff. So I guess once they sort of start running out of ideas, they're going to just have to start pumping in whatever they can to keep luring people through the door, I guess.
Yeah, and I hope that I forked out the money for, what was it, Sylvester Stallone's Rambo in Call of Duty in, it was Vanguard, yeah. I don't know. I'd love it if that skin carried forward, but I could also see them definitely charging me again for some of those classic skins that they released. Time will tell on that one. Any final thoughts before we move on, Billy?
No, just other than it's obviously out, and what are we, about a month away now, so it won't be too far to see. And it's got itself clear of that November sort of schedule, which we might talk about that sort of area later on, which is probably not a bad move. The first and second week in November is looking fairly crammed at the moment now.
Oh, there'll be a couple of delays from there, mate. Don't worry. All right, game 3. Now, this one is Prodeus, and I should note it's available on Xbox Game Pass. That's where I got it from, but I got it from Unky Dunky's tip. He sent me a message during the week. Troy, check this one out. It's for you. As you can see here, it's very much based on Doom from the original PC days. I don't know, I believe back in sort of, was it 92, 93, the original PC Doom came out? Did you ever get into that one?
Oh, I didn't know. I was a Wolfenstein man back in the day. The old Wolfenstein 3D. That's where I jumped into it.
Well, this is very much harkening back to those days. Now, I went through the settings and tweaked it all and made it look as modern as possible, but by default, they've even got the CRT flicker through it. All the models in my game, I flicked them into real 3D models, but it by default has like 2D sprite mode. So to your point, mate, of the old Wolfenstein, it's got that in droves. Like it just looks like one of those old games, but it's got the 4K mode. It's got the 120 frames per second mode. And it just runs, looks, and sounds beautiful. It's a very enjoyable game. It's in Game Pass. I think it was 7 or 10 gigs, but if you enjoyed those old shooters, it's very much those. It's, run around, find the blue key, find the red key, find the green key, and jump on out. A lot of the standard weapons, it's very much playing heavily on the nostalgia. So if you played first-person shooters in the 90s on PC and you've got Xbox Game Pass, I can't recommend this one enough. For me, I was only planning to check it out for about 20 minutes and spent 2 hours with it in my first session. And I'll certainly be going back to finish this campaign. I think this is a real hidden gem on Xbox Game Pass. Just came out this week. I think the install's up on the channel. The intent is that it should have been, but does this look like one you'd want to check out, Billy?
I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't look. You're right. It does remind me of the Doom games back in the early 90s, but I was never really into those ones. As I said, I jumped into Wolfenstein. I jumped into Duke Nukem 3D, and those sort of ones, but seemed to miss even Quake a little bit in the sort of latter half of the 90s. But for some reason, I never got into any of the Doom ones. It never really clicked with me. So, and even the newer versions, I know everyone raves about it and that sort of stuff, but it's never really clicked for me, to be honest with you. And
Well,
I do love the shooters, but just for some reason, just never got me.
Well, I'd almost say by that, mate, don't even bother inquiring because it doesn't sound like it's one for you with that criteria. It is very much Doom from the 90s. But for me, as I said, big nostalgia trip. I absolutely loved it. Oh, also, I should note here that you're looking at my footage. So, yes, it's 120 degrees field of view. It's ramped up from the default 80. So if you're wondering if it looks a bit more fisheye than you remember, that's just one of my settings. But I think it's great. If you enjoyed those 90s PC shooters, check it out. Couldn't recommend it more. Unky Dunky, thank you for the tip, mate. That was beautiful.
And what was the, sorry, just before we jump off, what was the price on it?
I think it was $10, but as I said, it's in Game Pass, so I didn't fork over any money for it.
Oh, yes, yep.
I think it was $10 on the store.
Well, if it's in Game Pass, I might have to jump on it a look.
Yeah. As I said, mate, those default settings, you'll at least be in for a laugh on that first level. And it is quite punishing. I challenge you, mate, to finish that first level on the, whatever it is, the ultra nightmare difficulty or something. It's very enjoyable. That's it for Prodeus. So over to you, Billy, for more on Assassin's Creed Odyssey. What level are you at, mate? How many hours in?
Oh, I'll probably put about 10 to 12 hours in now. I've got up to... I suppose it's probably not a spoiler. It's a couple-of-year-old game, and if you haven't played it, it's fairly early on anyway. It's a very long game, and 10 hours in is not a lot. But I've left the first island. You go and do this to the sort of second main area where you end up having a big battle. I won't reveal the storyline after that, and then after that you move off to another island. So I'm basically on the third island in Greece, and it's the first stage where you get to start finding out about the mysterious cult, basically that's running around Greece and what they're doing behind the scenes and all that sort of stuff. So that's pretty much where I'm up to. In terms of, I think I said a couple of weeks ago, I was sort of tossing up between this and Valhalla, and it was just the fact that this one had their DLC on sale and fairly heavily discounted too. So I jumped onto that. It's probably not quite as good looking as Valhalla, but it still holds up pretty well. It's got that sailing part of it that Black Flag had, so Assassin's Creed 4 had, which was enjoyable. It's not overdone. It's, you sort of have a little bit of a break from running around the land and doing different things. The actual stealth mechanics of it, when you're sort of going through restricted areas and that sort of stuff, holds up. And I don't know why. I thought for some reason it wasn't as good as it actually is. And it holds up fairly well, even 3 or 4 years down the track since its release. It still holds up pretty well, and the stealth mechanics still work pretty well. So the only criticism I've got at the moment is when you have the bounty on you, you've got the bounty hunters after you that you'll be halfway through, clearing out a castle or something and doing it stealthily and all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden 2 bounty hunters will come strolling into the castle and spot you out of nowhere, and it just blows everything up and they sneak up on you. So that's probably my only criticism at the moment. But still, as I said last week, still enjoying it. There's probably not much more to say on it, but just still enjoying it. I'm pretty sure I remember most of the story, and even if I don't, once you start playing a cutscene, you sort of go, oh, yeah, I remember that part, but still enjoyable nonetheless. But still as daunting as I think I said to you last week, when you think I'm only 10 or 12 hours in, and that's somewhere around the 10% mark of getting everything done. And there's a long way to go. And then I want to back it up with Valhalla, but I reckon I would have had enough of Assassin's Creed by then.
You may have some other bigger games to address by then. Just on the DLC, mate, are you able to jump into that early, or do you have to finish the main campaign before you get access? I don't remember how they integrated it.
Oh, so you can jump into it. You don't have to finish the main campaign, but you've got to be at a certain level, essentially. So I think off the top of my head, the first one's about a level 30, and then the second one you've got to be about a level 40 or something like that. So you've still got to put a fair bit of time into it if you're starting from scratch. But obviously, if you've got a previous game, you can just jump into it, get the DLC, and then just kick off from wherever you left off. But so it's still enjoyable. As I said, probably not a hell of a lot more to say about it other than that. But
it's in Game Pass. It's a high recommendation from everyone here, that's for sure.
It is just recently released in Game Pass, and that's what got me back into it, along with the DLC. So if you've got Game Pass and you've never played it, highly recommend it. Jump into it.
Definitely.
It's free. I would suggest give it, if you're going to play through it, give it probably 5 or 6 hours to get the story to start going and just getting a bit more of an idea about the world. Once you get off that first island, it really opens up, the story opens up, and some of the background stuff starts to open up as well, which makes it a lot more intriguing and enjoyable. So if you're going to have a crack at it, give it a decent amount of time. Don't just put half an hour into it and think, oh yeah, I've seen what it is and move on, because there's a fair bit more to it.
Now, Bully, I haven't asked you this one before, mate. Do you, now, as I do, and it's probably just a me thing, but when they eventually let you off the leash, so to speak, my way of playing is running around and doing all the viewpoints before I tackle anything else. Is that by chance the way you play it, mate? Do you try and reveal the whole map and then get into it?
Oh, I get sucked into the question marks as well. So when you're running along, and it'll say, and you can see up the top of the screen there's question mark ahead. Yeah, I'll go and do that one. I'll go and do this one. Oh, there's a viewpoint. I'll go and do that. So I sort of do those as I make my way along. What I've actually found out is I'm costing myself a fair bit of time doing it, because I've gone through areas and cleared out and found all these question marks and cleared out, all the enemies and done what you need to do with it. And then you'll get to the next town that says, can you go to this area that you just cleaned out to go and do something?
Yeah.
So you're sort of almost costing yourself time doing that. You're almost better off just going to where either the main quest or the side quest is, in my opinion, and then following through with that and saying, yep, I've gone to these areas based on these side quests, and then you might have 1 or 2 little areas on the side that you need to clean up after that, and that will probably save you a fair bit of time, rather than sort of going from, spot on the map to spot on the map to spot on the map, then to the quest, then to the spot on the map. So just probably a little hint for you if you want to save yourself a few hours.
Nice one, mate. Thank you. I will employ that technique on, what is coming out this year? Mirage. Assassin's Creed Mirage, I think, is the next one.
I don't think we're getting it this year, either. I thought it was sort of mid to late next year, but yeah.
Oh, it's the other one that's named escaping me, but we'll cover it coming up. For now, though, let's jump on to Game 5, and this one's me. This one is a recommendation of an indie game available on the PlayStation Plus Deluxe tier. Oh, a reminder to you, Bully, sorry, mate, I saw my subscription was about to re-up at the full price, so I've since cancelled my PlayStation Plus. In a couple of days, it'll lapse back for mine, but you might want to check it out. If you did the discounted upgrade price, you might be about to run out and get a big bill on the old credit card that you're not expecting. So maybe check it out. But before you do, I recommend checking out this one. This is John Wick Hex. It's available for the PlayStation 4. Obviously, you can play it on a PlayStation 5, which is what I was doing here. The really cool thing about this one, turn-based strategy, isometric view, but you can control that camera with the right stick. But the real gotcha at the end, once you've cleared a level, is it does a replay in more like a cinematic camera mode. And I had no idea that this was coming. So I sort of played my way through it very dodgily, working out what all the rolls and everything do. And then at the end, it gives me a compile of my character, John, just rolling into walls and doing all sorts of oddities. But it is really, the hook is replaying, if you play it properly, not like me goosing around into the walls, but if you play it properly, then watching that sort of summary. So it's, maybe 2.5 minutes going through the level and then a nice little maybe 10, 15 second summary of that whole level in real time. It's just fantastic, very much inspired by the film. Bully, have you had a chance to have a look at this one at all?
Yeah, I did. I probably went through the first 4 or 5 levels, and I must admit, I missed that mechanic.
Really?
I just went, so when you get to the end of the level and you just go next, 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 I didn't go review level. I didn't even think to look at that. I just said, oh yeah, okay, that level's done. All right, let's move on to the next one.
I should have been more explicit in my instructions when I was telling you about it. But yeah, it's because I feel like the game, when you play it's sitting at about a 7, but then when you get to the end of the level and it goes back through and shows you that summary, I reckon it kicks it up to about a 9. I'd give it a full extra 2 points, because here we go. It's area complete, and if you watch now, it'll roll straight in, unless I cut the video, and hopefully I'm about to hit the replay button and you'll see those actual camera angles roll through. It's an absolute thing of beauty. And I can say it was so good, it actually made me go back and watch the first John Wick film this week, which I haven't seen in, gosh, a long time since I've watched the John Wick, and it doesn't look like that footage is going. In fact, it's possible that that's stuck all together. So, if you've got PlayStation Plus, Deluxe, or whatever, access to it, I highly recommend checking it out. It had totally escaped me. I think it's 3 years old at this point. It totally escaped me. It was the first time I came across it, but highly enjoyable. Check it out if you've got access at no cost. And once again, that was about 4 gig, I think. Not much to that download at all. That'll bring us to Game 6, which is with you, Bully, and Grounded. This is Grounded.
Yeah, so this is the full release. It's come out of early access or preview, I think is what Xbox or Microsoft call it. So I never played the preview version of it, but so I didn't really. I knew the basic premise of it is you get shrunk and you go around your backyard and all the rest of it. I didn't really understand or pay much attention to what sort of type of game it was, but it's funny. It's sort of like it's almost like sort of Minecraft survival mode to a degree, where you sort of go, you got to scavenge resources in the backyard, and then you've got to go to different. As you go into different areas, you then come across, your enemies will be against ants and mites and spiders and stuff like that, which are now become basically the same size as you, and you've got to craft weapons. You start with, as you can see in your hand there, basically a little rock that you use to smash them, and then as you sort of progress further and further, you can start making weapons that'll attack them better. You can then start making armor and that sort of stuff, but it's also got the bit of the survival mechanic in it as well, in that you've got to eat, you've got to drink, you've got to make sure you sleep and all that sort of stuff to make sure that you're still progressing through. And it's got essentially like little save points, so you can create like a little lean-to tent style thing to set up as a respawn point if you die, or you've got different sort of, I can't recall that they are off the top of my head, but basically little bases around the yard. And you've got to go and sort of work out why you've been shrunk and what's happening and all the rest of it. And it's got an interesting setting, although it's probably a bit hard once you sort of get into the weeds, so to speak, with it. But it's set in like the early 90s, so it's got, for those that have seen
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
No, I was going to say, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is probably a good one, but I started to get, although it's a little bit later in and it's not a horror or thriller type thing, I actually got a few of the Stranger Things vibes with it. Just sort of the way it was set up, and some of the, when you start the game, they've got a TV on and it plays through these made up ads that would have been reminiscent of the early 90s and that sort of stuff, and then the news anchor comes on, and for those that can remember back that far or are alive that long ago, I know there's some that aren't, very reminiscent of that sort of time, and I've probably put 3 or 4 hours into it now and just sort of starting to get into the story and doing a bit more exploring, but it's fun. It's a bit of something different that you don't really see every day, and I don't know how much more I'll put into it, but it's certainly something different, and it's come out of that preview early access stage. And my understanding is, and I haven't had a great look into it, is that as part of that, there's also expanded areas and different quests and different challenges and stuff to work through as well. So again, this is a Game Pass game. Came out last week in the full version, and if you got Game Pass, I reckon it's well worth having a look at, especially if you do like that Minecrafty sort of game or survival mechanics in a game as well. So yeah.
Nice one. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, mate, but is this online multiplayer? Could we be in the same world and bashing ants together?
I think so. I didn't really look into it too far, but from what I can see, you can create your own world like you would in Minecraft. So I assume each backyard's pretty much more or less the same. But if I created a world, then I could invite you to jump into it, and you can select your character and sort of go through the missions and stuff together. But Don't hold me to that because I haven't really looked into it. It's just what I've seen on the menus. It seems like you can do that.
Yeah, I saw multiplayer in the menu, but I didn't know how it was structured. But that could be really cool, man. I wonder if it might be like how we both enjoyed Back for Blood, but then playing it, online co-op was far more enjoyable. I wonder how many points this might go up if we were bashing ants together.
Yeah, well, I just have to see because I don't know. As I said, I'm still fairly early on in the game, but there doesn't seem to be a massive amount of combat. There's little bits as you go here and there, but it seems more about gathering resources and all that sort of stuff. Although I did note that there's a day-night cycle as well, and it does come up with a warning saying it's getting dark, you should set up your camp and all the rest of it. So I don't know whether it's the same as with Minecraft where once it hits night time you start getting the zombies and that sort of stuff out.
Yeah,
whether there's other
to play.
Yeah, where there's other creatures that'll come out that are, a bit more difficult and a bit more plentiful as well. So I haven't sort of got to that part yet, but we'll work through that probably over the next week and see how much further it goes. But not a bad little game and well worth just at least having a look at, I would have thought.
Yeah, nice one. The platforming put me off a little bit, I'll be honest. All right, so Game 7 this week, another recently added to Game Pass. This one's Deathloop, or Death Nag 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 Loop, as I dubbed it back in the day. And the first thing I want to congratulate, who is it, Arcane Studios, I'm pretty sure? They've added enough accessibility options that it's no longer Death Nag 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 Loop. They enabled me to flit down to an easier difficulty and have infinite retries. So it means when I play poorly and die, I don't have to go through all those nag screens. I can just respawn infinitely until I finish the level. So their accessibility options that they've patched in, I don't know at what point in the last 12 months they patched it in, but whenever they did it, it's now fixed the game for me. So I can enjoyably play this game and really get into it now. So I'm quite excited to get back into it. If you played it on PlayStation a year ago, you mightn't be as interested, but it has been added to PlayStation Plus Deluxe on PlayStation. So if you haven't played it on there, it's now in there as well with the accessibility patches. So now is the best time to check out Deathloop on either Xbox or PlayStation. Both installs available on the channel. Bully, have you gone hands-on with Deathloop at all in the recent release?
Not in the recent release. I did have a bit of a crack at it when it was released on the PS5 last year, and wasn't really taken with it. I don't know. It was just, I know sometimes I'm a bit. I have to be in a certain mood for certain games, but I know with some of their previous stuff like what was their name? Dishonored. I really like the gameplay in that and the different mechanics and some of the skill trees that you could sort of work through that and abilities you can unlock. For some reason, I just don't know why this just didn't grasp me at all, and the concept of sort of restarting each day again and again didn't really get me. I know in theory you're progressing further and further into the story each time, but I just thought you're just going back to the start. You got to play through. Yes, you can go to a different area, but you're essentially starting off in the same area, doing the same thing, and it just put me off. I don't know if that was the same for you or what you thought of it.
Yeah, it was very much the same for me, mate. But my big problem was the amount of times I died, and then, to your point, having to replay the same day. I was rebooting so frequently and replaying each of them. I got over it real quick. But as I said, new accessibility options. You can crank the difficulty down to easy. You can crank the loot drops up to the highest tier on the easiest difficulty, which is fantastic. So now you can sort of real quickly get some nice weapons, get some nice trinkets. To the meta game that you were speaking about, you can start banking some of the better weapons running through there. And as I said, with infinite lives, so to speak, I can always get in there and actually get the target and get out. So I reckon I'll be able to wrap up this game inside 10 hours now with those features. So now's the time to check it out if you haven't already. Deathloop, but it's gone up a few notches in my book, that's for sure. As I said, in both Game Pass and PlayStation Plus now. So jump on either of them if you haven't. But that will bring us to the overtime. And my overtime this week has just been on Midnight Fight Express. We covered it earlier on the channel when it came day one into Game Pass. However, the developers sent me the key for the install for PlayStation 4 version, which I've done. So I've gone hands-on again, starting from the start with Midnight Fight Express. And that game is still an absolute beauty. I absolutely love it. It's a real thing of joy. But, Bully, I know it wasn't really to your taste, mate, so I won't even ask you. I'll simply hand it over now to you, mate. What overtime have you been getting up to?
No, you're right. I haven't jumped back into it. I had some very disappointing overtime this week. I was just scrolling through some of the PS Plus offerings, and I saw on there was Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX, which is obviously a re-resed or remake version of an original Sega Master System game, which I did love back in the day. I put... look, I've been kind if I said 10 minutes into it. It was massively disappointing. They've redone the controls. It's really floaty now. You seem to just sort of float. It's obviously a 2D platformer. You just sort of end up floating around, and you can't time your jumps. So you'll jump once, and you'll just sort of just do a little jump. Next time it'll be a big jump, and you'll end up jumping into enemies and all that sort of stuff. As I said, I didn't even get through the first 10 minutes. I was just bitterly disappointed with that one.
I hope it wasn't a big download.
No, it didn't take long at all. The only thing that I will say about it, it's got the new remake graphics on it, but like with a lot of those, you can tap a button and it goes back to the old Master System graphics. But even that wasn't enough to save it. I just, as I said, 10 minutes deleted and on your bike. So if anybody's looking for a nostalgia hit there, I'd suggest go and find something else, to be honest with you.
May I suggest I.A.I.?
Well, yeah. If you want a bit of nostalgia hit that actually might work, go with that one, because Alex Kidd ain't working.
Very good. That will bring us to the news segment. If I can find the button that's labelled, you have the right to remain newsworthy. That tab switches automatically, and I love it. All right. Story 1 this evening from GameSpot. The Modern Warfare 2 beta was called Call of Duty's biggest ever. Bully, what can you tell us?
Yeah, sorry. Biggest. I think as is reported there, you can see on the screen, it doesn't matter which way you look at it, which way you break it down. They had the most players, the most concurrent player count, the most number of hours played, the most matches played, all that sort of stuff. So it seems like, especially after the last couple of years, I know Vanguard really dropped off the perch. But I guess when you say that, for any Call of Duty game dropping off the perch is still outselling pretty much every other game out there, but a lot lower numbers. So the fact that they're rehashing another Modern Warfare, I think 2019 was the last one they did, the Modern Warfare remake, so they've obviously gone back over old ground again. I know it's entirely new single player campaign as well, but obviously we only got to look at the multiplayer sort of stuff, but to see that it's come back sort of with a vengeance, whether that holds on for the full game, I don't know. I guess time will tell, but I reckon Microsoft would be sitting there rubbing their hands together at the moment if this is how it's pumping out and then that translates into sales in a month's time.
Yeah, that'll be great for them. I wonder if it's maybe they don't want too good news too early until all the scrutinies of their acquisition have gone through. Maybe they don't want to quite be lighting up the skies just yet with it. But great things. As we said earlier, we had a great time with the beta, so good to see. It would appear that the general internet agrees with us. All right, story 2 this evening from GameSpot. Alleged GTA 6 hacker, appears in court, being held in youth detention centre. Bully, they've been busy over in the UK.
They have, and I think you've been following this a bit more than I have. I know it was news to me. I know that they've obviously there was the hacker out that released the footage or the build footage from a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't actually realise that that they pick someone up for it, and a 17-year-old, I guess. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes, and I guess in time work out how they've tracked him down and worked out who it was, I guess.
I can fill in a few of the holes there for you, mate.
Well, there you go.
But some of the hacking forums, he was posting about it previously, and some of the other hackers knew who he was and just doxed him on it. They just turned around and said, "Oh, well, that's him." I obviously don't know what further happened then research-wise, but people outed him as being the bloke, and then the cops went and picked him up. And what I can tell you is he was out on bail, I think is the correct term, for misuse of computers online previously as well. So he's also in breach of his bail that he was out on, or whatever the term for it is in the UK. I'm not sure. But he was already in trouble for it once, and he went at it again, and they've just pinged him for it. So I can't imagine this story ends well for him.
Well, no, you wouldn't have thought so, but I would have thought maybe, even though he's 17, he probably doesn't have a lot of finances behind him. I still would have thought that Rockstar would be going him civilly, and he'd be paying for that for a long time, I would have thought.
Apparently he had $10 million in cryptocurrency.
Well, there you go. He might not have 10 million in cryptocurrency for long.
Someone went knocking on his blockchain. Yes. Well, I'm keen to see how it turns out, but I would imagine that they'll be trying to throw the book at him to dissuade other people from following in his footsteps. I don't know if you saw a slight tangent here, but the Demon Souls, Dark Souls 3 PC servers have been under attack again, Bully. So I think maybe someone's going for a second payment from Bandai Namco.
I didn't see they'd been hit, but I think I touched on it before with the cheating in Call of Duty, and you can say the same with GTA. Look, everyone's clamouring for it. Everyone wants news about it. Everyone wants to see what's coming up, and all the rest of it. But the reality is that we all know that Rockstar's away busy at work, trying to do the right thing, whether you agree with the way they go about things or not. They've got a business to run. They're trying to go away and do the right thing by themselves, the shareholders and the customers, and put together something that is going to be a big seller and embraced by all. And I know we want to hear about it, but at the end of the day, this is, I guess we're just in that day and age now. You're probably never going to stop it, but I just sort of shake my head and go, well, what's the point? Because you're not going to get the game released any earlier. In fact, you're probably putting it back because now the development teams have to go back and, relook at things, or the company's expending energy and effort, going through the court system. So you ultimately probably just end up putting it back further than what you were going to get it anyway.
Oh, yeah, make no mistakes, they are not doing anyone any favours when they do this sort of stuff. As enjoyable as some of that stuff was to see, I would much rather it never happened, absolutely. Go and create something new, I would suggest, instead of tearing down something someone else has built. All right, story 3 from Press Start Australia. Netflix is building its own game studio. I'm just glad it's not mobile game studio. Bully, have you looked into this one, mate?
Oh, look, I only briefly. I guess it's one of these ones again. I sort of question it and think, well, we've seen companies go down this track before. We've seen Apple try to do it. We've seen Amazon to a lesser extent try to do it. We've seen what's Unky's favourite gaming machine that bombed and tanked from Google,
Stadia,
was it?
From Google.
Stadia.
Yeah, Stadia.
We've seen this time and time again. I just don't see how you can do it. I don't know why Netflix just don't jump onto one of the existing companies in Xbox or Microsoft or even Nintendo and say, hey, look, we can cloud stream your games through our service. We can hook up your controllers through whatever it is, Apple TV or through a smart TV or whatever, and say, look, we'll deliver the content for you. And take a slice of a subscription pie or whatever it is, however they want to do it.
Yep. And
run it that way. I don't see the need for them to be going out and creating their own games company, especially. I've had a look at a few things recently with Netflix, and they're losing a bucket load of money at the moment.
Yeah.
Because they've gone with a lot more original content rather than buying it. It's costing them a lot more to produce it, and subscription numbers are down, especially after the last 2 years with with COVID and the pandemic and everyone being locked down, etc. They're below the pre-pandemic numbers at the moment in terms of their subscription, and their share price is tanking because of it. I don't know if this is a saviour for it, or whether they just need to concentrate on what their primary product is that's not faring overly well at the moment.
Well, I think this will tie into the Cyberpunk effect that we've seen, the Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and yes, they released a new patch for the game and the next-gen consoles, but my suspicion is they want to be able to offer the video game parallel that, Sony are doing so well with The Last of Us, The Witcher, and Edge Runners all, doing great things for both the game and the TV show. I suspect Netflix want to be able to offer some TV shows who have no affiliation with game companies, hey, come and work with our production team and we can get a show together for you and maybe boost the numbers of both the show and the TV show. That pure speculation, but I suspect that's probably the angle they're going for. They want some of the extra coin that Sony would be seeing from the game sales, that sort of thing, I reckon.
Oh, look, quite possibly, but again, I don't know why they don't just work in collaboration with. I know Sony's got their own TV and movie studios, but certainly Nintendo don't, and Xbox don't. So I don't know why they don't go and say, let's collaborate together and say, hey, you've got, I know we've had the Halo TV show, but for instance, you could say, you're releasing a new Halo game, or you're releasing a new. Nintendo's releasing a new Mario game or a new Zelda game, whatever it is, say, hey, we can, do you want to partner with us, work with us, we'll put together a live action or an anime style offering to go with it, and we'll split the profits, I just think they're better sticking in their lane than trying to branch into something that we've seen others try and fail dismally at.
Yeah, the other speculation I've heard was that maybe they were trying to get themselves to be a good acquisition position for Microsoft to buy Netflix and then, tied into the whole Game Pass affair. I've heard that speculation, but I don't know. To me, I think they just want the extra, 30% off all the sales and everything if they're producing both sides of the content and, pick up profits both sides, not just the television streaming side. Would be my suspicion, but time will tell. Good luck to them. All right, story 4 this evening is, I'm going to call it Vulk.com, VULKK.com, and they're letting us know that EA and Marvel have announced a new Iron Man game is in development. Bully, I hope you got some more details for me.
I don't think there is a lot of details other than the fact that it was almost like that Wolverine announcement from a couple of years ago. There was a bit of a, it's coming, get excited, that's it. We've got no release date. We don't have a lot of details for it. And in fact, I think there's even less details for this one than what we got from the Wolverine one. Just that, this is what we've got coming.
The good thing I've just seen here, it's the same director as from Guardians of the Galaxy. And now I absolutely adored Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's a very positive step from my eye. But yeah, is the only thing they've released this still? Because that could almost be the cover. Gosh, do I still have it over there? I don't think I do. The PS VR title was there. There was an Iron Man VR title. This looks like the same character model from there.
They do. I've actually been trying to get my hands on that, but it has been a little overpriced at the moment for my liking.
Really?
As is with some of the VR stuff, because they're either limited runs or, released only in certain markets. But as I said, probably not much more to go on it other than that it's coming, I guess. My only issue is, and this has been fairly standard across the board for most sort of superhero games, is the flying element that goes with it. How you would translate that into some decent gameplay, because I know anytime they've tried to do a Superman game, it just bombs. It doesn't work because you're overpowered if you can just fly everywhere and go everywhere and do whatever you want. It sort of kills the actual gameplay elements of the game.
That's true, but it's from EA, who are the people who did Anthem, and I would argue the only good thing about Anthem was that they nailed that Iron Man suit, mounting, flying, and then landing again. So hopefully they can pull in some experience from that previously ungood title, but at least if they get the flying from that, I think we're in for a win on the Iron Man flying front.
Sorry, I just blacked out for a moment there. Did you say there was something good about Anthem?
The Iron Man suits flying. Come on, Bully, it was enjoyable. Just talking about moment-to-moment gameplay. There
was nothing enjoyable about that pile of flaming trash.
Do we want to put a guess in for when they turn off the Anthem servers? I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, but they're still up.
I thought they were supposed to be turned off at the end of this year.
Oh, they announced a date. I just turned it on the other day to see if they were on, and I'm like, oh, wow, I can still get into the game. I just assumed they would have killed the servers a year ago.
No. I'm pretty sure that it's either late this year or early next year they're shutting them down, which, again, I agree with you. I don't know why they're still letting them go, because who's still playing that thing?
Maybe they prepaid for the servers, and so there's no loss. All right, story 5 then is from Forbes. This one might be sitting a little odd. HBO's first teaser trailer for The Last of Us is a thing of terrifying perfection, allegedly. Bully, have you gone eyes on with the trailer? What were your thoughts?
I have. To be honest, the biggest jarring part of it, Joel looks like Joel. Ellie does not look like Ellie from the game. I think that was my biggest takeaway. It's almost overly distracting watching it. Yeah, but you sort of go, yes, there's all this stuff going on in the background. Yes, you've got a bit of action happening and a bit of obviously with the clickers and you can see they're obviously in different parts. They're either part of a town or building a town or whatever it is. And then they'd flash to Ellie, and you go, I almost can't look at it. No disrespect to the actress, but I almost can't look at it because you've got that vision in your head of what she looks like in the video games, and it just does not translate one iota. And I'm always of a mind that once you've sort of got something set in your head, I find it very difficult with changing your image and having that actually translating to something that's enjoyable. And I think the biggest example of that for me was, I'm not sure if you've ever read, there's a series of books by Lee Child where the main character is Jack Reacher. Yes, and without going too much into it, but the description of him in the book is basically a 6'6", ex-army military police, built like an absolute brick, Scheisenhaus, and can take out groups of blokes in one fell swoop. Yes. I think they're up to about 24, 25 books in the series. In any event, they go and then make a movie of it and cast Tom Cruise as the main character, who is about 1.5 foot too short, nowhere near the size, nowhere near what was then described. And I just couldn't watch it after 5 minutes. As much as I love the books, as much as I wanted to get into it, I couldn't watch more than 5 minutes of it. I'm really worried that this is going to be the same case, is that I've just got this vision in my head that isn't translating to what I'm seeing on screen, and I'll just go, no, I just can't do it.
I'm right there with you, man. I do find I have the same issues. I'm really going to be distracted by it. If it's good enough, maybe after or during the first episode at some point, it'll bleed off and it'll be unnoticeable, hopefully. But from the trailer, mate, and I know it's only a small snippet and it's all out of context, but I had the exact same issue, mate. She wasn't, not my Ellie, so to speak. Ellie? Have I got that right? Ellie? Yeah, beautiful. It didn't look right to me, and I would have issues with it. I'm hoping I get over the issues, but I'm right there with you, man. You're correct on all counts. It's concerning. I'm not sure why they wouldn't have cast someone who looked a lot more similar to, blanking on a name, Ashley Johnson, I want to say?
Yeah. I don't know. I suppose that's probably one of the concerns for me. And the other thing that I guess sort of concerned me a little bit, and again, I don't know whether it's just been taken out of context with the trailer or they're just focusing on different parts of it, but obviously large portions of the game are almost that Joel and Ellie against the world, the hopelessness of they're the only ones there. And I know that changes a little bit in The Last of Us Part 2 where they form part of a town and all that sort of stuff, but the initial part in the original game was basically trekking from one side of the US to the other. And working their way through that, trying not to be hunted, trying to escape, and basically working as themselves. But you see in parts of this that they're basically in the middle of towns and there's other people around and that sort of stuff.
Different feel.
Yeah, so I don't know how much that sort of distracts or loses from the actual intent and the original story that they were telling in that first game, or whether this is, and again, I'm not sure whether this is supposed to complement the games or whether it's a prequel leading up to the game, or whether it's it forms some sort of offshoot of it. I guess time will tell, but probably a couple little question marks for me. Although I did notice, I saw some stats that I think it was within the first 12 hours. I think it was 10 million odd views on YouTube, trending through the roof on Twitter. So there's obviously a massive appeal and a massive audience that are excited for it, and time will tell, I guess, how it sort of pans out.
Yeah, I'm definitely keen to check out episode 1, but I'm going in with a lot of reservations, as we've just alluded to. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you said Twitter? Look at this bully on, what's this, Story 6, I want to say. On the Geek Aloud Twitter. Who runs that bully?
Oh, look, in my spare time, I've been known to throw a few things up there from time to time. So, for any of the listeners out there, if you want to jump on, it's at Geek Aloud on Twitter. I'll try and fire a little bit of everything up there. So, give you a bit of news, give you a bit of funny stuff. And given that we just had, as you can see on the bottom of the screen there, the Catters got up on the weekend, won the grand final. There's also a few nods to the Catters and to our now former inspirational skipper in Joel Selwood. So a bit of everything on there for you.
It's great work, mate. I love everything you're doing on the Twitter land. Keep it up, please. And this is indeed where we've pulled this story from. Skull and Bones has been delayed. Look out.
Well, I know you've been sort of harping on another game that was due to be released in and around that time frame to be delayed, but obviously we've got a different one come through.
I'm expecting damn near this exact same graphic, just change out the name for God of War and maybe put the release date of something of February 2023. And yeah, I reckon we'll have an exact copy and paste of this from Sony at some point. I'm flaking on the studio name. Who is building God of War?
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica, of course. Sony Santa Monica, I think's name will be at the bottom of the God of War delay, and I suspect it'll read a lot like this. But if you're waiting for Skull and Bones, note it's been delayed until March next year. And Bully, correct me if I'm wrong, is that a day one Game Pass?
I don't think it was. It was. I can double check it.
This is Ubisoft, isn't it? I think I've crossed it with the different one I'm waiting for a delay news from.
No, it was. To be honest, I was mildly interested in it. It has. I know I touched on it before when we talked about Assassin's Creed, but it's got a lot of the elements from probably my favourite Assassin's Creed game, which is Black Flag, with the boat sort of stuff. And I know it's been roundly ridiculed a bit for is that it? Is that all we've got? Is the on the water style part of it? But from what I've seen in some of the footage, there is actually some on foot sort of stuff and some other elements to it. So I know a lot of people have been dissing it from the get-go. I was mildly excited for it, although I have to agree with them. Whether it's good to go right now, I don't know. I would suggest it was, and they've probably just done the smart move going, well, how can we release the day before God of War Ragnarok comes out and expect that we're going to do very well? And I think if you're talking about delays, I reckon the next one coming off the ship is Sonic the Hedgehog.
No way in hell. The next one's coming straight from Sony Santa Monica. I was just to your point, mate. I was not that particularly interested in Skull and Bones all the way up until the recent Ubisoft Forward, the one, what was that, 2-3 weeks ago at this point. But they did the sort of 15-minute, I want to say, deep dive then into Skull and Bones, and it did show the off-ship stuff, and it looked far more interesting. Their recent trailer for it actually got me excited. It's put it about a 7 on my anticipation meter list. Skull and Bones. So unfortunate that it's delayed, but I look forward to checking it out March next year when it comes. Also on the Geek Aloud Twitter earlier this week, Bully was posting up this. The new PlayStation Plus games for October have been revealed. Bully, it's one I've been harping on about for a while now, but Hot Wheels Unleashed, 2 big thumbs up from me. Have you played this one yet, mate?
I have. I've got the disc, as you know. I'm the big physical media man. I have the disc sitting up on my shelf up there. I did enjoy it. I think there was a few things with it that sort of held it back from mine, but you're getting it for free if you've got PlayStation Plus. It's well worth jumping into and having a look. There's and I think you know better than I do, but there's a fair amount of DLC for it now as well.
There's 3 years of content at this point. I think it's called like Year 1 Pass, Year 2 Pass, Year 3 Pass. The key features were Batman, I want to say was Year 1, so it was maybe 16 extra Batman-themed levels. I'm forgetting what the one in the middle was. Was it Monster Trucks, maybe? I want to say Monster Trucks was Year 2. And then Year 3 just came out was the Looney Tunes. There's a whole, another 16, 20 levels, all themed with Looney Tunes, and it's got a Looney Tunes-themed cars as well. So that's all paid DLC on top of the purchase, but it's on there, and I've enjoyed my time with it. I think Hot Wheels Unleashed, absolutely enjoyable game. Very good. Also coming is Injustice 2, one of my all-time favourite fighters. Bully, are you into... I know fighters aren't big on your list, man, and it's a bit comic booky, but I would highlight Injustice 1 and 2 as the best stories in a fighting game that I've ever seen. Have you played them, mate? Have you seen the stories they offer?
I haven't, but I'm not a massive fighter fan. I think I reckon the first Injustice was a PS Plus game in 2015-ish, off the top of my head.
That sounds right, yeah.
And I had a bit of a go at it there just for, I think that was not long after I actually got the PS4. And it was one of the few games that I had because it was free, obviously, and jumped into it and had a bit of a look. But it's just the same as... I would love to be good at fighting games. This sort of blends for me the Mortal Kombat style stuff with the fighting, as opposed to your more cartoony sort of Street Fighter stuff. So it does appeal to me. I'm just no good at them. So,
well, mate, the story is so good in these games. What I'd suggest, man, you can go into the settings, accessibility style, knock all the rounds down to just 1 round instead of, I think, 3 by default, and put it on easy. Mow through all the fights and just go for the story. It's an enjoyable ride if you do it that way. I highly recommend maybe carve out an hour for the weekend and just put it on and see how you go with it. But I think you'll be in for a very pleasant surprise, mate. The story is that well written, you should experience it, I think. It's very well put together. And then the other free one they've got is Super Hot. Now, it doesn't say here, but I assume it's the VR version of Super Hot, not the 2D one, but it doesn't say which version it is, so I'm not sure. But it looks like the cover from the VR release of Super Hot. Have you played that one, Billy?
No, I haven't. I did see that, and I was hoping it was the VR version because that would give me a reason to plug the old headset back in.
Yeah, nice one, man. I absolutely love it. Second favourite VR game. Third favourite. Half-Life Alyx, Beat Saber, and then Super Hot. Man, it's an absolute thing of beauty, assuming you enjoyed your, Matrix bullet time effects. It all hinges on that. But if you enjoy that stuff, you're in for a treat. All right, that'll do it for that story. Final story this evening is directly from the PlayStation blog, and it's the 15 most wanted games, according to Sony's marketing department, still coming in 2022. Bully, do you have time for me to peruse down this list, mate, or should I hit the accelerator?
No, we've got time to bash our way through it. Obviously, you can take Skull and Bones off that one, and we'll see if God of War makes the list.
All right, we've got first up is Tunic. 2 big thumbs up from me. I absolutely love Tunic, and I think Bully, your hot tip was apparently look at the game manual or something.
I don't know how you missed it because I thought it was fairly self-explanatory. You pick up the piece of paper and it shows you the manual about how you do your different moves and that sort of stuff. Makes it a lot easier to play the game.
If I'm not looking at minute-to-minute gameplay, I'm buttoning past it. Come on, put me back in the game screen. I don't have time to read. I was elected to lead, not read. I don't consider reading gameplay. I'm sorry, I'm not into it. All right, next up is Post Void Spring 22. I know nothing about this one. Excuse me while I hit play. Oh, no, it's asking for my age. I'm going to just move straight along. Do you know anything about Post Void? It's news to me, Billy.
No, I don't, other than just sort of reading through that description there, which is basically a brightly coloured FPS, retro style one, so might be worth something looking into, but I certainly haven't seen anything of it.
No, very good. Moving on then, the next one, Valkyrie Asylum. Is this one up your alley, possibly, Billy?
Oh, very much so. I've seen a bit of pre-release or review gameplay of it. Action RPG. It's the Valkyrie series actually goes back off the top of my head 20 odd plus years. There's from the PS2 onwards. I'm not sure if there was one on the PS1, but certainly from the PS2 onwards. That from what I've seen, that it's an action RPG. The gameplay looks fantastic from what I've seen, and similar to a lot of JRPGs, there's a lot of different endings depending on how you play through it, some of the choices you make, and all that sort of stuff, and how well you do through it. But for a JRPG, it's that sort of thing's always up my alley. So hopefully the story holds up with the gameplay, and I'll be definitely checking that one out.
Nice one. I'll hit pause before I move on, otherwise this whole show will come to a crawling stop. The next one is A Plague Tale Requiem. We don't even need to ask the question. 2 big thumbs up, get it. That's going to be our tip for this one. Oh, sorry. Just allow me a moment while I tell you I fired up the first bit of, what was the first one? A Plague Tale Innocence.
Innocence,
I put about an hour into it, Bully, and thoroughly enjoying it, and you were right, mate. Why didn't I check it out earlier? I should have. A very enjoyable ride, that first one. And I don't know if you saw the article earlier in the week, Bully, but someone was interviewing the game director, and he was saying how they didn't originally intend to do a sequel to A Plague Tale Innocence. They deliberately left the tale open if they wanted to do a sequel, but it wasn't in planning the whole time. So it's just they've capitalised on the fan feedback, apparently. So great story there.
Yeah, certainly did a lot better than I thought. Than obviously they thought, but than a lot of people thought as well. And I suppose one of the other things I've seen, and I didn't really experience it or didn't see it too much in the first one, but I think it was the director again was basically saying that it's about a 20-odd hour game, and there's pretty much no downtime in the story or the gameplay as you're sort of going through it. There's no
content.
Yeah, let's trek 5 minutes for the sake of we don't know what else to do other than make you run through a field for 5 minutes.
Yeah, let's just slow down the person you're escorting by 20%, so you've got to walk behind them.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it'd be interesting to see how that goes, and if they can keep up that gameplay from the first one, I reckon they're on to another winner here. So hopefully it does well for them. I reckon they've done a great job as a sort of B-tier/indie studio. Good luck to them.
Yeah, well, fantastically well-written script. As I said, I'm only an hour in, but they are knocking it out of the park insofar as character development goes. I'm very much keen to continue. Now, the next one is Gotham Knights. Me, interested, but not getting my hopes up too high. Any initial thoughts, Billy, on Gotham Knights at this stage? Thoughts, I should say, not initial.
Yeah, look, when it was announced, I was really, really up for it, and I got a little bit worried with some of the gameplay that we saw earlier in the year. But the more I've seen of it, the more I'm getting into it. I reckon this will be close to a day one for me. I reckon, just the way it is. I know that this is the team behind the Arkham Origins story, so not the I guess the black sheep of the family. So it were, but I actually quite enjoyed Arkham Origins. That I thought it complemented the other ones fairly well. So if they can sort of put that together, I guess my only concern is if it turns into a DC or Batman version of, I guess for want of a better word, the Avengers or a Destiny style thing where I'll go out and do this mission and then we'll reward you with a new, weapon. Go out and do this mission, which is exactly the same but with a different boss, and we'll give you a new pair of boots or something. I'm just a bit worried that that's how it's going to end up, as opposed to just a good fleshed out single player story that you can sort of work your way through, like what we've seen with the other Arkham games, which is, I guess, more of what I'm hoping it's going to be like. But we'll see how we go. Yeah.
Color me excited. Have they firmed up a release date yet, or are they being elusive still? Oh no, October 21st. Look at that. It's right there.
Yeah, it was. Well, it's funny because it was originally released for the 25th, I think they were saying. And they brought it forward a couple of days, so maybe get it out of that Call of Duty window, maybe.
Yes. Well, there's no fear of God of War coming out, so they can move it wherever they like. Oh, I'm staying there. All right. Next up is New Tales from the Borderlands. Bully, I don't think you're a Borderlands fan, are you, typically?
I don't mind it. The second one, I put a lot of time into. The third one, probably not so much. I reckon I put an hour or two into the original Tales from the Borderlands game. I don't know. I'm sort of like you. There's not really any gameplay to it. It's just you're sort of clicking through a book, basically, a visual book or visual novel. You're just clicking through a story, making a couple of choices, and I do enjoy some parts of the Borderlands story, but not enough to make it the whole entirety of what you're doing and sitting there and just working your way through it. I guess I don't know. It probably needs a little bit more something from me. I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, I'm right there with you, mate. I need the looty shooty bit of the gameplay, not just the cutscenes and dialogue trees. It's it's not what I would call enjoyable minute-to-minute gameplay. But, if you're into it, good on you. Enjoy on October 21st. Then, we've already discussed it, so I won't go into it too far, but Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 coming out on the PlayStation October 28th. Fearless release date. I love it. And then, here we go, to your point, Skull and Bones. It has been moved. Oh, look, they've even updated it right here. They've given us the big update, strike through and re-release date. Good on them. Now, the one you were talking about earlier, Sonic Frontiers. You're waiting for the delay, you're saying? You're not thinking November 8th for Sonic Frontiers?
No. I reckon they're daft if they do. Let me just put it that way. It's not that it's had its problems, but I think there's been question marks over the quality of it, which from more and more of the footage I've seen, that the less I'm concerned about it. But I guess the concern still lies that there's question marks about.
Oh, I've lost your audio there, Bully. Oh, it's Bully's laptop crashed. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess Bully's laptop's crashed. Oh, yes, Bully's disappeared. Let me hit that box there to clean that up. We were in the news stories. Most wanted games. We're finishing off the PlayStation blog. That was Sonic Frontiers. I've got to flick back. Whoa. To this one. Stand by, people. We're going to take an active reload. If I can find the active reload button, it should be here somewhere. Oh, it's not. I think I'm missing it. Oh, unless this is it here. Bear with me. I'll be right back. Technical difficulty. one. All right, everybody, I believe the technical difficulties are fixed. Hopefully, Bully, are you back, mate? Looks like you're there.
I am. Just had a bit of a laptop meltdown.
Beautiful. That's right. You can subscribe to the channel, and if we get enough subscribers, we'll actually have some money. We'll be able to pay for things like better laptops that don't crash. Wouldn't that be a dream? All right. Next on Sony's list, God of War Ragnarok. I know you're very excited for this one. You've pre-ordered, haven't you, Bully?
Oh, I have. I'm not always big on the pre-order, but I think we're fairly safe bet with this one. I reckon we'll be all right. Plus,
fair enough. Now, will you get the full? Did you pre-order the full edition with the hammer, mate?
Probably just a bit out of my price range, that one. If you could actually get it, I think it was pushing about $300 or $400, wasn't it? And then that was if you could get it, because it was sold out within a matter of minutes.
Yeah, mate, that's right. So Unky will be picking up for about 800 large, I reckon. He'll be in here swinging the hammer.
It's one of those things. It's the big exotic collector's editions and stuff like that. You look at them and you go, "Look, that'd be great to have," but the cost is absurd for something that, let's be honest, is going to just sit up on your shelf and take space. So I don't know. I just don't know how you can justify it, to be honest with you, but, good luck to those that
have. Indeed. I'm very jealous of them, don't get me wrong. But, no, I don't have that, unfortunately. Next up, Goat Simulator 3. I know I am keen, and you and Unky were hard passes on the old Goat Simulator, so we'll move straight along. It is November 17, and then now, Dark Witches anthologies. The Devil in Me coming out November 18, Bull. Will you be going into it, or have you dropped off the series?
Well, I've still got to play the last one. I sort of got distracted, and then they released The Quarry, which I sort of got sucked into. And I think I was sort of halfway through the previous one, which I can't recall the name of the top of my head. But, I really enjoyed it.
Man of Medan?
I reckon that was the first one. It'll come to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But anyway, I really enjoyed it. Like it's long enough to be worthwhile what you're paying for it, but it's not too long that it starts to drag on or gets a bit tiresome or whatever it is. The stories I always find are fairly interesting in what they're doing, and it's obviously one of those things, the same as The Quarry, the same as Until Dawn. It's a bit of a choose your own adventure type thing, and how you respond to the on-screen prompts and the decisions you make as you're sort of battling your way through it ultimately determines who lives, who dies, and how the story ends up. So I always really enjoyed it. It's, as I said, it's not overly long and well worth having a look at.
Now, as you've just said, as you can pick your own adventure and some of them or all of them can die, I take it that there's no characters that are in all of them. Is there an overarching character, or are they all independent stories?
The only repeating character from each of the, well, this will be the fourth one, is the, I guess, narrator or the host, I guess, for want of a better word. So you sit in his house, and he sort of, not so much guides you through it, but, throws you little crumbs here and there, and sort of, it's not even so much a background to it. He's just sort of there, just saying, these are the decisions you've made. This could have an impact here that you didn't think of, or that sort of stuff. So it's just basically him that's a reoccurring person, but the individual characters in the game itself that you play are different in each one of the games. So.
And coming out November 18, I would have thought maybe they would have aimed for the end of October for this one. Would it have made more sense a couple of weeks earlier, do you reckon?
I think so, and I reckon, off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure that the other three are all a September, maybe mid to late September or early October at the latest sort of release. So this is sort of pushing them into a territory I'm not sure that they quite want to be in. And given that you're releasing, I guess, pretty much the week before Thanksgiving and the Black Friday sales and stuff that they have over there. I'm not sure if you're going to get a lot of traction on that one as well. I would have thought that they would have wanted to get rid of that maybe a little bit earlier than
moving forward. And I just noticed then, Bully, it's coming out the day after after the Goat Simulator 3. So how's that for not being scared of the other games coming out at that time?
I don't think anybody should be scared of Goat Simulator.
Then next up, we have the Callisto Protocol. Everyone's been high-fiving on this panel, looking forward to it. December, if memory serves. December 2nd, this one's aiming for. Any new thoughts on it this week? I know we've been over it pretty heavily recently.
Probably not much more to add than what we've already seen. It's, obviously the old spiritual successor to Dead Space, and I think all three of us agree we've liked what we've seen to start with, and hopefully that plays out in the game we get.
Yeah, fingers crossed that'll be a good one. I want to say it's the last one on the list. It may not be. Marvel's Midnight Suns. Any interest from you on this one, mate? Also December 2nd, going straight up against... I want to say it's the last one.
Yeah, a bit of interest, I reckon. It probably caught me a little bit by surprise. I wasn't... initially, when I saw it, I don't think I was thinking an XCOM style, isometric... type affair. It would have been. I would have thought maybe something more along the lines of, the Marvel's Avengers that we got, and maybe a better version of that. But from what I've seen, I like it. I don't know if it's going to be a day one purchase. I'd probably wait to see how it sort of plays out and what the actual gameplay's like.
View scores.
Yeah, maybe even just see what the gameplay's like for an extended period of time rather than the snazzy cutscenes and cut shots we get. So. We'll see how we go. Well, I know it's got. I think it's made by Firaxis, which is obviously does the Civilization games, and the strategy aspect of that is always top notch. So hopefully that translates over, I guess.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We still haven't seen enough of it for me to get a really good feel for what we're in for. But I'm hopeful, as always, with any game coming out. I'm hoping it'll be a Marvel. Speaking of not Marvel. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Is this one tickling you in any way, Bully? The final one for the article, December 13 release date. Crisis Core Final Fantasy Reunion type of fella.
I am a Final Fantasy man. Crisis Core never really did it for me, so I reckon this is just another one of those wait and see how it sort of plays out, and we'll go from there, I guess.
Yeah, it's very good. I suspect Unky Dunky will be our lead investigator on that one. He is very fond of the old Final Fantasy series. All right, that brings us to the new releases this week from the Game Informer website. First up, we already discussed it, Grounded, coming to Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One and PC, September 27th. That's come to pass. Of course, it's Thursday now, so some of these will have. I'm a goose. All right, next up... I'm going to say Hoko Life. Do you want to correct me on that one, Bully? PlayStation 4, Xbox One?
No, we'll go with Hoko Life. Don't know anything about it, but we'll go with that.
That works. Life is Strange Remastered Collection coming to the Switch. Did you play? I believe you played the series, didn't you? Life is Strange series, mate?
I played through the first one. I haven't done the rest of them. I don't... what are we now? Maybe a 4 or 5 year old game? Does it really need a remastered?
Great point. It does not. You've picked that one. I love it, Bully. I hadn't even noticed the word remastered in there. I just thought they were bundling 1 and 2 together. Well played, sir. All right, next we've got The Fridge is Red coming to PC. No idea. Moving on. PlayStation 4, Switch and PC get The Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero on September 27th. No idea. Does that ring any of your bells, Bully?
Oh, look, to be honest, I only saw it the other day, so I don't know too much about it, but I reckon it'll be one of those ones that I'll have a bit of a look at some of the gameplay footage as it comes out. It might tweak my Weeby-style interest, so we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Keep your eyes on the Gaming Enforcement Agency, a future instalment, possibly. Then we have the also already discussed Tunic coming to PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 and Switch, September 27th. And I don't know without looking at a calendar, but I'm going to guess that's the end of the 6th month Xbox exclusive for Tunic. It was a day one Game Pass in there. I haven't heard any word of it coming to PlayStation Plus at all, Bully.
No, neither have I. But if you haven't picked it up, jump into it. If you're a fan of the old school, 2D. Oh, I shouldn't say 2D, but your 3D over the
Isometric.
It's isometric. That's what I'm looking for. The isometric Legends of Zelda. It's right up that alley. Just make sure you read the instruction manual, and you might be okay.
All right, next up we've got Deathverse, Let It Die, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, September 28th. I know absolutely nothing about this. Have you got any input on this one?
No idea about this one, to be honest with you.
Deathverse, Let It Die. The main character on the left, or the character featured on the left there above the word death, looks vaguely familiar, but nothing is coming to my mind. Actually, you know what? I think I'm just confusing him with, what's the name of the dude who sells stuff in, what is it? The last Resident Evil Village. Oh, I think we've lost Bully again. Stand by, guys. We'll be right back. Another technical issue. I apologise.
Let's fly.
Well, welcome back. We're here. Bully's back. Deathverse, Let It Die. What I was trying to fumble my way through, Bully, was I reckon the character sitting on top of the word death looks like the dude who sells stuff to you at the shops in Resident Evil Village. I think that's where I thought I knew him from. I don't think it's him, though. All right.
Well, next up. And then maybe the girl next door is a strange version of Lady Dimitri. The lady.
Yeah, that one. The tall one. Brewmasters on PC. We'll skip it. Doffromantic? Come to Switch.
I think
no idea.
Skip.
Yep, skip. That works for me. Let's Build a Zoo coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and X, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch September 29th. But I can tell you, this definitely jumped up in Game Pass earlier today. Day one, available on Game Pass if you're into that sort of thing. It's not one for my mind. Are you into the old zoo tycoons, so to speak?
Oh, not particularly. I think I've always found they're best played on a PC. Although I have been meaning to hook up the wireless mouse, so that might be a reason to do it.
Yeah, fair enough, man. Then Moonbreaker on PC, moving straight along. Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous. Coming to Xbox Series XX, PS4, Xbox One, Switch. Weird there's no PS5 release on it, but September 29th. Do you have any insight on Pathfinder there, mate?
I have no idea whatsoever on that one.
No idea either. Then we've got Picross 58. I think it's S8, but how many of those have they released? A fair few. Let's call it Picross 58 coming to Switch September 29th. Are you a Picross player, Bully?
I will go with no.
Fair enough. Then Valkyrie. Now, is it Asylum or Elysium? I know I said Asylum before, but I've been regretting the choice ever since.
I think so. Yeah, Elysium. Valkyrie, or Valkyria, depending on how you want to say that part of it, but Elysium, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for the correction. PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, September 29th. Should have come out today. Bully, Do you think Steve whaled it remotely and picked it up today, even though he's not with his console?
I reckon it'll be sitting there for him by the time he gets back. It's probably right up his alley as well, so he will be sitting there for him.
He'll be all about it. Then FIFA 23, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and X, PS4, Xbox One, and PC on September 30, and the trial version, if you're an EA Play subscriber on either PlayStation or it's in the Xbox Ultimate. I have no idea if you can buy EA Play an individual subscription on Xbox, but the trial version's available. You can get 2 hours hands on FIFA now without waiting for the 30th release date. If you're so inclined, then we've got, coming to the PlayStation 5, My Little Pony, which I'm just going to keep moving on, and then a PC title, which I'm not going to worry about it. So we'll say that's it for the list of upcoming titles. Thank you to Game Informer. Now that we've done that, does that mean it's time for the standoff?
Oh, I think it may well be.
Let me hit this button.
Who will fight?
Who will fight? Bully, this week, big shoes to fill, mate. Phil, I should say. What can you tell us about the rules of this week's standoff, please?
So as mentioned at the kickoff, but if you've missed it, obviously Cyberpunk, with the release of the Netflix anime show, has seen a massive resurgence with their game sales and their concurrent player count and all that sort of stuff. So our question is, what game has had the biggest comeback from a failed or below par launch?
With that said, let's bring out contestant number 1 this evening, enjoying long walks on the beach. It's Fortnite. Fortnite's redemption arc.
Well, Fortnite, for those that don't know, it actually released as a base building co-op, 4-player co-op game where you'd basically fight horde. You'd try to build up a base and have hordes coming to attack it, and you had to lay down traps and all that sort of stuff. That was the original version of Fortnite. And I think at some point later down the track, they added in what we now know as Fortnite as a secondary option, or as a buffer to the game, and eventually worked out that, hang on, this is where the cash is at. And I, to be honest, I don't think you can actually play that.
No, you can. They've tucked it 6 menus deep, but I can confirm. If you bring up the options menu, it's really obfuscated, but options menu, you dig in there and eventually you'll find somewhere where it says Save the World mode, and Save the World mode is the original Fortnite as it was released. As you say, mate, online 4-person co-op shooter, third-person shooter, build bases and stuff. I've put maybe 12 hours into it. I think it was an enjoyable little game. But obviously, as you said, the big money was in their Battle Royale, which is why they've just tucked the other one away. But it's still there and available if you're so inclined. But you don't typically play much Fortnite, do you, Billy?
Oh, look, no, I'll jump on for the occasional sort of bit of a go if I've got someone else that wants to jump on and have a bit of a squad game together. But generally not. I'd never really warm to it, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
I can see what the appeal is. I know my kids are big on it, so although trying to fend them off hitting the wallet to get the latest battle pass or the skin is always a challenge. But if you talk about, I guess, redemption arcs, it comes from basically a game that nobody was talking about, nobody knew about, to this behemoth of a global sensation that's just making Epic just fistfuls of money, and
indeed,
looks like going away no time soon.
Yeah, I haven't gotten an update from Unky recently, but I believe the last number I heard from him was that he put $5,000 into skins in Fortnite. So I think he's in a $5,000 hole for this game. But yes, one hell of a redemption arc, and we don't have the numbers, but if you're basing it on sales post-redemption, I think Fortnite would take the biscuits. But Game 2 this evening has its own unique flair, and it was, of course, No Man's Sky, which I believe launched 6 years ago, Bully. What can you tell us about it?
Oh, I think this is one of the old E3 overhype trains.
Yep.
I was Sean Murray when it was before it was released, when it was being revealed, and he talked about some of the features that it have, and basically there's infinite worlds and multiplayer, and you could
Sorry, mate.
No, I was just going to say you could go into each other's, or you could meet up in galaxies and explore planets together, and it just told us about all these features that when the game dropped had none of it. There was no infinite galaxy system. There was no multiplayer system. I think even the story that was originally touted was about getting to the center of the universe and finding out the secret behind the center of the universe, which just turned out to be a dribble storyline as well. Anyway, so that went from bad to worse with that one. But to their credit, they've spent the last, as you said, 6 years putting out new packs, rejigging elements of it. It's now got the multiplayer in it. It's got base building in it. I haven't jumped into it in a long time, but just some of the stuff they've added, and they continue to add more stuff. I know that if it hasn't been released already, I think the Switch version's coming up at some point next year.
Okay. I'm confident they've added a VR mode in the past 6 years.
Yes, they've added the VR mode as well. So, as I said, I probably put a couple of hours into it, and the gameplay just didn't really grab me. But it's certainly, from where it was at launch to where it is now, it's night and day. And credit to them, they overhyped it and sold something that they probably shouldn't have been selling to start with, but they've gone back and put the time and the effort in, and from what you see from the release to now is an amazing achievement in my opinion.
Yes, to come to now I'm blanking on their studio name, Sean Murray, No Man's Sky. The studio is escaping me, but in their defence, the studio
Games, I think.
What was it? Say it again. Sorry.
Hello Games.
Hello Games, you've nailed it. Yes, it wasn't all Hello Games' fault. I think Sony have to bear at least 50% of the responsibility for putting him on that stage in an unprepared state. Though he did make a few misclaims, I'm not sure he should have been put in that position to make them. But anyway, you're right, mate. 6 years, one hell of a redemption arc on No Man's Sky. Anytime you put VR in it wins for me. However, I can't check it out. My VR headset is dead, and I'm not going to pay him $275 to fix it. No, thank you. Game 3 this evening is Rainbow Six Siege. Now, I'm hundreds of hours into Rainbow Six Siege at this point, Billy. How about yourself?
Oh, look, I've probably put maybe 5 to 10 into it, so you're probably a lot more qualified than I am to speak to it.
Well, I can talk about the death animations pretty well.
It's not a platformer, though. What are you talking about?
Unky's kill-death ratio dwarfs mine. What can I say? It's a shooter, and I've been shot a lot, but it's one hell of a fun game. If it was the reverse of this, we'd nominate their, Rainbow Six Extinction, I want to say, that horrible sort of parallel game they tried to release. Was that this year or 2 years ago now? But Rainbow Six Siege, I'm a huge fan of it. But, that'd be even longer. Did that launch in 2015, I want to say?
15 or 16, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been going even longer than No Man's Sky, but the game does go from strength to strength when they stick with their realistic simulation. It's an absolute thing of beauty. I'm a huge fan of Rainbow Six Siege. And yes, to the point of financial incentives, they are raking in the dollars to this day with it. So good on them. More Rainbow Six? Yes, please. Next up, what is Game 4, Bully?
Game 4. You talk about the overhype with this one. And the one that went with the overhype was the old loot boxes, but Star Wars Battlefront 2. I'm not sure if it was on release or pre-release that they come out with the loot box system, and then on release people started to work out how much time and effort you'd have to put in to organically unlock some of the characters. And I think Darth Vader, they were talking about, I think they were talking about originally 40 or 50 hours just to unlock one player, or alternatively, you could go and buy him or buy loot boxes to hopefully have a crack at getting him. And that was, they obviously copped a huge amount of ridicule for that. And on top of that, actually probably ended up changing the legal standing in a lot of countries. as a result of that, because of the outcry with it from the general consumer, a lot of governments and parliaments sort of then started to have a look at loot boxes and the implications of that, and what they were sort of doing, obviously trying to aim them at young kids who aren't 18 and don't probably understand the whole gambling aspect of things as well. But recovered from that, I think they've tweaked. I haven't jumped into this one.
Out entirely.
Oh, they've gone entirely, have they?
They just nuked them. There was too much government scrutiny, and they went, you know what, we're just going to go without.
Well, there you go. And I know playing from what I did play, it was actually quite a good game. It was just trying to get through to the characters that you wanted to play as. So if they've gotten rid of that, fantastic game. And I know that they've supported this probably as well as they did the first one, with lots more maps, lots more characters, lots more weapons. All that sort of stuff, and even now we're talking, 4 years down the track for this one, and it's still going probably as strong as ever.
Yeah, well, I think stronger because it's now in Game Pass, is it not?
Oh, you got me on that one. I'd have to have a look. It might be through EA Play.
Yeah, I believe EA Play in Game Pass Ultimate, and it's in there, I think. And to your point, mate, they pulled out the loot boxes, and I think it's had a resurgence, and that's why it's on our list of comeback kids, so to speak. But number 5 for the Standoff this week is one of my all-time favourites, Diablo 3. Should we have started this off with error, what was it, 53, I want to say? Server error 53?
Well, you can start it off with that, or you can start it off with the absurd real auction house, I suppose.
Oh, that's right, the old auction house. I've pleasantly forgotten about that one.
Look, to be honest, I didn't put a lot of time into it. It was, I think it originally released on the PC and then came to consoles maybe 2 or 3 years after that. And by that stage, I guess the excitement level had sort of passed for me and I'd moved on from it. But if you jumped into it in the PC, you could probably speak to what it was like a bit more than just the error messages and the dodgy pre-loot box mechanics they had on it.
I am a huge Diablo fan going all the way back, and this was an absolute gem. I loved it, other than, I'm sure it was just error 53, not server error 53, though it was a server issue, but just kept everyone out of it on launch day, essentially. But fantastic game. Are you a Deckard Cain fan? The narrator who lives within this world, I absolutely love his voice. I love every time he says, "Stay a while and listen." I think that guy's brilliant, and he made beautiful appearances in this, and also he's in Diablo Immortal. I didn't see in the leaked footage, but I assume Deckard Cain comes back for Diablo 4 next year. But to Unky's point, in the inclusion in this list, it was a very dodgy launch, server errors, and yes, mate, the real money auction house didn't win any favours. They've pulled both of those out. They've fixed the server errors. They've gotten rid of the paid transactions, and now it's just an enjoyable game, especially if you get the, Necromancer DLC, I want to say, added about another 5-hour campaign, I think, and it was just a new character class. Absolute gold. If you haven't seen the Necromancer class, get onto that one. But Game 6 in the Standoff is which one this week?
Game 6 is Destiny.
Hey, now.
Now, I've put a bit of time into it, but I came very late to the Destiny Destiny experience and probably put more time into Destiny 2. But probably the biggest controversy that I remember from it was the old, what was the little robot that you've got with you? I can't recall, but Peter Dinklage, Ghost. Yeah. Peter Dinklage was the original voice actor for that of Game of Thrones fame, I believe, and was one of the biggest, flattest performances of all time. But thankfully, he's been totally wiped.
Was it Nolan North or Troy Baker who replaced him?
Oh, you got me there. I reckon it was Nolan North, but
I reckon.
I know Unky's in the chat. He might be able to correct me if I'm wrong there. But I know that was probably, from my point of view, that was one of the biggest issues with it to start with. But again, I didn't jump into it early doors, so you might be able to speak to it a bit better than I can.
Well, I would say one of the biggest things they did to improve it was enable cross-play progression. Obviously, cross-progress, cross-play wasn't a thing in Destiny 1 when it's launched, but over the time, they've finally worked it out. They've tied it all together. So now, finding other players, you're not just limited to your console. And it's just an absolute behemoth in the industry now, like Destiny 2. I would argue would be the biggest first-person shooter out there. Feel free to fight me on that one. But I think Destiny 2 is still going from strength to strength, numbers-wise, every time they release something new for it.
Yeah, I think the other issue was with the original Destiny release, it was just the amount of content they had to start with. It was fairly limited, but obviously they had plans on expansions and fleshing out the world a bit more than what it was. But the original base version of it, before you started getting all that, was fairly light on for content in there as well, and you sort of got to level 20. I think was the cap at the time. There wasn't really much to do after that until I started getting into some of the other expansions and fleshing it out a bit more with better loot and
to that point as well. And sorry, mate.
No, you're all right. Done.
I was going to say, on top of that, one of the big criticisms was not enough variety in the enemy types either. It was sort of, here's 3 sets from this army, here's 3 sets from this army, here's 3 sets from this army, and game over. Very limited opponents variation.
Yeah, I've just been corrected in the YouTube chat. It was Nolan North as the
very good
as the revoicer.
Peter Dinklage replacement, but that's Destiny. I still love it to this day. Looking forward to getting in. I believe it's February next year. The next big DLC drops for that one. Life Bringer or something. Life Dropper. Something about life. Anyway, Game 7 this week. What is it? Our final entry.
Final entry. Geeks at a time into, obviously if you were doing it with a group of friends, you'd all need to set that time aside and sit down and go through it from go to woe. And it just
need to pick a winner. I will nominate Fortnite, our kickoff one. I can't think of a bigger one. How about you, mate? Where's your money landing?
So I was just getting distracted by Unky's comments in there, but I'll get to those shortly. Look, I'm a toss-up, I reckon. I can see Fortnite, but I can also see No Man's Sky.
Yep.
And given that they're a small studio, with what they promised to start with, and yes, they were wrong in promising and over-promising and under-delivering what they were setting out to achieve, but the fact that they have not just gone, okay, we're done, we mucked up, we're out of here, we're going to go off and work something else. They've literally spent the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years, going back to the drawing board. A lot of the stuff that they've released has been free, so they're not sitting there making as a cash cow that we're going to release bit part DLC or skins or that sort of stuff like Fortnite does. They've actually gone back and put together some pretty good content over that time when a lot of studios might have given it 6 to 12 months post release and thought, nah, it's all too much, let's just cut our losses Anthem style and run away. But to credit, they've battled on with it. They're still releasing content for it. As I said before, they're still releasing, or they're due to release a Switch version of it as well. So I reckon kudos to them. And in terms of a comeback story, that'd be where my vote sort of lies. But I could see as well.
It was one of Fortnite or No Man's Sky for me, mate. But you've made a compelling argument, and I will move my chips over to the No Man's Sky square. So, No Man's Sky, a winner is you for this week's Standoff. Biggest redemption story in video gaming. Congratulations to those guys. But, Bully, that can only mean one thing, mate. We have to be coming over now to the audience for audience interrogation and deliberation. What has been happening in their YouTube chat?
Well, I know we've jumped to a different night, so we're probably missing a few of our regulars in there. But I know one person that's been in the chat from the get-go is old Unky. And he's been bashing out the comments. He's in fact, I blame him. He's probably the one that's been crashing my laptop with the amount of comments he's thrown in here. He's sprouting out how he's one of those good modern warfare players with a good KD that's very healthy. Hashtag no hacks. Hashtag real gamer. What have we got in there? Granted, review, Bully, love the Into the Weeds. Yep. And he says, yes, it does have multiplayer and apparently very fun. And the way it should be played.
Perfect.
He's still batting on for Stadia. Wants to come back. And he said you're wrong on the skins he spent on Fortnite. It's 5.2 grand on Fortnite, but if they missed his ass, it was $9.95 that he spent.
Perfect.
And look, I know we talked about it before, but I think we'll just leave the whale noises for Unky when he comes back next week.
Very good.
He's thrown his weight behind Fortnite, and his reasons are given that it's pretty much everything in pop culture, medium, and franchise coexist within one game. No other game has come close to it in terms of cross promotion. But that's pretty much it for the comments. Hopefully, once this is up and done, and we've got our regulars back on board with a new time frame, we'll get those guys back in the chat as well next week.
Indeed, and great point, Billy. Thank you for reminding me, everybody. This is a permanent move. We have permanently moved G.E.A. to Thursday nights, 8 p.m.ish right here on Geek Aloud. That will do it for this week. Unky, thank you for being in those chats, mate. I appreciate your support there. But Billy, thank you for flying solo and picking up the very heavy load that Unky normally carries for us. But you've done a beautiful job this evening, mate. Good work.
Well, thank you very much, just as long as I don't have to pick up his wallet, because I know how much he shells out of that.
We'll leave that one to him next week. Unky Dunky will be back on G.E.A. next Thursday night. Looking forward to it. There's a lot of installs planned for this week. I'll save them, though. There'll be a treat for you. Keep your eye on the channel. They'll be popping up over the next few days. What else can you do with Geek Aloud? Like it, subscribe it, you'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something.
Love everything about it. Ooh.
Players play. Old Uncle Donkey. Gee, Donkey.